there's big news today, and it was reported 2 days ago by my colleague, Noah Strackbean, who is the publisher of all Steelers for SI.com. Wrote it a couple of days ago. It was pointed out on Twitter. Jesse picked it up, sent it to me. And, it's a report with the source from the Steelers. And they say, we're pretty much certain. We highly expect to get Brandon Aiyuk, and we don't think we're going to have to give up that much to get him, maybe second. That's the report. Buy or sell it.
I'm definitely selling this. I don't know how they would only get it for a second. I do understand that we as fans do overvalue our players. We think they're worth more. Like when the Deebo Samuel situation was going on, I was like, oh, we better get like a top 5 pick, or we better get the number 10 pick from the Jets and a second rounder. Okay, those things are never realistic. But Brandon Aiyuk is worth a late first round pick at this point in his career. And if I'm the 49ers, let's say that isn't the market for him, then I'm not going to consider trading him. I really don't believe that the 49ers want to trade Brandon Aiyuk unless he's going to ask for something astronomical that they just feel like they cannot meet. And based off of the deal that Devontae Smith just got, he's not going to ask for something astronomical. $25 million is the new floor. He's probably around 27. Make it happen. So no, I don't believe this at all. Do you believe it?
I absolutely believe it. The thing about it is, it's interesting. It's coming from Pittsburgh. I do know Noah. He's extremely plugged in with that organization. So if he says a team source told him, I believe him. And it's interesting that they would just say it in such certain terms. Like, I'd be surprised if we didn't get him. Like, we're going to get Brandon Aiyuk. What are you talking about? And it's not even going to cost that much. It seems to me that I think a grip of teams are willing to pay Aiyuk more than the Niners are willing to pay him. Like, I don't think the Niners are willing to pay him market. It's not that he's asking for more than market value. I don't think the Niners want to pay him market value, which is like you said, $27 million at least a year. They're already paying one wide receiver 24 almost, and they don't throw that much, despite what some people would tell you. So I can see this happening. In fact, I do think it's going to happen. I think that's why the reports are coming out all of a sudden about, well, we'll talk about that later, about the Niners taking a wide receiver. I think once they do, then they'll make the trade.
I don't know, Noah, and I'm not saying that what he is reporting is incorrect. I think he is reporting what he's hearing. However, there's a big difference in a team pursuing a player and continuously pursuing a player and the other team willing to play ball and give up said player. So for me, I don't know how the 49ers could justify a second round pick for Brandon Aiyuk. What pick is that? I mean, they've got to be 50. Is that like 50 overall from the Steelers? I don't know what their second round pick is. It's something like that. So I don't know, man. If
I would imagine it'd be that plus. But I mean, this happens. Like when they traded DeForest Buckner, he was the 7th pick in the draft. He only improved. He was great. They got pick 13. So I mean, that's double. It's L'Jarius Sneed is a great cornerback. He went for a 3rd. I mean, obviously, if you can't pay him, that's going to be part of the reason he's leaving. The Niners couldn't get anything for Eric Armstead. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised, man. A second round pick, they suck at drafting in round 1 anyway. And again, it's like, this is different than the Deebo situation. Let's talk about that. With Deebo, he wanted there to be a market for him, but there was no team that was more enthusiastic about Deebo than the Niners. There was no team that was going to offer him more money or give him more touches or feature him in more creative ways than the 49ers were willing to. And he learned that the hard way. Aiyuk's in a totally different situation. I think there are multiple teams that would throw to him more, pay him more, use him more. I think he knows it. I think the Niners know it. And I think that's why this is kind of an awkward situation. Like, they could be confident with Deebo and say, he'll come back to his senses soon and join us in reality. But reality is sort of on Aiyuk's side.
Oh, I agree with that. I do think, and I think that it is important for Aiyuk. I do think that there's a world that exists where Brandon Aiyuk is saying, okay, I want 27 million. They're like, okay, we'll give you 27 million. And he's like, and I want to be featured in this offense. They're like, well, we can't guarantee that. Not yet, anyways. I think there's a world where that could exist.
What's the point of paying him $27 million a year if you're not going to feature him in the offense? If you're really going to give him 3 catches a game in the playoffs? Like, what is the point? Just so you can keep your fans happy?
Well, for the same reason that they pay George Kittle. But Brandon Aiyuk.
At least they can say
Brandon
Kittle
Aiyuk
blocks and is a key part of the run game. Like, yeah, wide receiver blocking is important, kind of, but not like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of this has to be future, though, too, right? So this year, if you were to extend Brandon Aiyuk, you're only going to have about a $4 million cap hit, which means he's basically going to outplay that no matter what, unless he just plays a game and gets injured. So he's going to outplay that. Next year, when his money gets big, that's when you would move on from maybe a Debo, a CMC, a Kittle, 2 out of 3 of those guys, what have you. And now the money meets the production and what you're going to ask from him to do. So that's the way that I see it. It's not just about this year. It's about the future. And those guys are going to be gone soon. A lot of those guys.
We've argued this point before. Instead of rehashing the argument of whether they should trade it or not, let's bring it back to the report. Again, I haven't talked to Noah since the owners' meetings, but I did talk to Noah a lot at the owners' meetings about this. So I know some things and I know who he talks to. And that's why I'm so confident in him being at least plugged in. Now, my question to you is, why do the Steelers think it's all but certain? Why? If it's not. Like, they're posturing in a very confident position. We got him, and we'll pay him whatever it takes, but we're not going to have to give the Niners that much.
The only thing that I can think of is that they are going off the track record of the 49ers. They probably have a deal worked out with Brandon Aiyuk where he's agreed to it in principle.
Yep.
And so they're looking at what the 49ers have done and said, okay, well, you traditionally pay your players. You're not going to let them play on the 5th-year option. It sounds like you're not willing to pay him what the asking price is.
Well, we are willing
We've
to pay
agreed
him,
to that.
and what you know what I'm saying? Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I think all of those things could line up, but there is still a spot where the 49ers say, yeah, I know what we've traditionally done, but we are willing to let him play on the 5th-year contract, and we're not going to let him walk for a 2nd-round pick. Okay,
so that's why thank you for answering that question. I think we completely agree on all of that, and let's finish it. Let's finish it off. I forgot what I was going to say. Let's move on to the next topic.
That's the only thing that I can think of, is that Brandon Aiyuk and the Steelers have talked. And I think that that's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility.
Okay, so what I wanted to say was, thank you for buying me some time. Yeah. So they've talked. They're probably on the same page. Aiyuk probably knows what Pittsburgh will be willing to pay him, and he probably likes it. So this, to me, this is down to negotiating for draft picks at this point. Niners probably know they can't pay or unwilling to pay Aiyuk what the Steelers are willing to pay him. Okay, they're in a tough spot. But that doesn't mean you just have to just give him away for a 2nd-round pick. Like, now you have to posture and negotiate and get the most you can from Pittsburgh. And I think that's what's going on. And maybe it could fall apart if Pittsburgh is really stingy. But my guess here is this is just negotiations. It's a 2nd plus. The Niners want a 1st. The Pittsburgh want to give the 2nd. Like, how do they meet in the middle on this one? That's what I think is happening.
I want to throw this out there as well. And I want to be very clear. I do not think Brandon Aiyuk is going to get traded. I don't think the 49ers intend on trading him. However, I do want to lay this to rest, because a lot of people took what Brandon Aiyuk's agent said as gospel. When he came out a couple days ago and said, we have not requested a trade. That could be true, right? And I actually
even say that, or did he tell a guy he needed to get better sources?
He needed to get better sources, basically saying he didn't request it. Yes. But I want to say this as well. If you go to that gentleman's Twitter, the agent for Brandon Aiyuk, around 2020, he has a tweet with him. It's a picture of him and John Lynch, and he's thanking John Lynch for essentially being his mentor in his career. So that means even if he has to do right by Brandon Aiyuk, who is his client. Even if Brandon Aiyuk requested a trade, he knows that hurts the 49ers if that gets out. Right. So what would be the right thing to do to your mentor and John Lynch? Well, let's act publicly as if a trade has not been requested.
All good.
So that we're not doing anything bad by my friend John Lynch, and I'm winning both ways. So even if he had requested a trade, which not saying that's happened, I don't believe he has, but if he had, it would behoove that agent who is friends with John Lynch to say that he hadn't requested a trade. I just want to be clear
more
about
disgruntled and displeased Brandon Aiyuk comes across, I feel like the less the Steelers or other teams be willing to offer, right? Because they think the Niners are compromised here. Like, oh, you don't even have a relationship with Brandon. He doesn't even want to play for you anymore. Okay, 3rd round pick. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Yeah. So I think it's kind of interesting. Maybe they've talked and they've said, look, Brandon, like, okay, we'll do right by you. But in the meantime, can you stop with the social media stuff and can you come to OTAs and can you at least pretend like you're happy so we can sort of get a good pick for you and replace you? Like, do you hate us that much that you won't even do that? And I'm sure Ayuk's like, well, I'm not sure, but I could imagine Ayuk's like, sure, I could do that. I mean, it's just business and I have no ill will. I just would rather make more money in Pittsburgh. I mean, that's all it is. That could be it.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely see, like I said, I see, and I just want to play out all these scenarios because if he does get traded, I don't want to be the guy that sat back and was like, oh, I'm above the conversation because I never thought he would get traded. I want to make sure that I look at it from all angles because anything is possible. I just truly believe that he's not going to get traded, but we will see.
I mean, I can't say you're wrong. All I know is that I bet my dad a bottle of wine already, so I can't waffle at this point.
You're not walking back, yeah.